Hello, Bleacher Report listeners. My name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In this live stream today, we're continuing our conversations revolving around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. A draft that, in my opinion, has a significant amount of importance to the Buccaneers. And I'm going to talk about why in this live stream today, I should say. And I think an important place to start with is the road to the 2025 NFL draft. Okay. And where the Buccaneers find themselves contextually in terms of team success. Okay. So right now, the Buccaneers finished this past season with a 10-7 record. It is the fourth season in a row that the Buccaneers have won the NFC South. They won it in 2021, they won it in 2022, they won it in 2023, and they won it in 2024. Four straight division titles, and that is after they won the Super Bowl in 2020. So the team has had 5 years of phenomenal success, right? However, the past couple of seasons, they have found themselves with not the most playoff success in the world. In 2022, they lost in the wild card round to the Dallas Cowboys after winning the division. In 2023, they won in the wild card round against the Philadelphia Eagles, then lost in the divisional round to the Detroit Lions, a step up in 2023 from 2022. However, then in 2024, you could argue in some ways they did take a step back with a wild card round loss to the Washington Commanders. Now, every year, the past 3 years, they have finished with a better record, going from 8 wins to 9 wins to 10 wins in 2022, 2023, and in 2024. However, the playoff results have been a little bit mixed. So going forward, that's the next step for this football team, is seeing them have playoff success. Maybe that means getting back into the divisional round. Maybe that means, yes, even if they don't win the division, if they can go in as a wild card team, I would argue that playoff success, be it getting to the divisional round or possibly even farther, is more important in that type of scenario. So that's the next step for the Buccaneers, is can they take that next step to get more consistent in the playoffs where they were in 2023, where, hey, they can win a wild card round, have a chance to win a divisional round, and maybe go even farther than that. That is the next logical step for the Buccaneers. That is a big reason as to why the Bucs need to have a successful 2025 NFL draft. And this is a team that has seen a fair bit of change here the past couple of years as well. The Bucs are on their third offensive coordinator in 3 years. Also, you had Dave Canales in 2022. You had you had Dave Canales in 2023, I should say. Byron Leftwich was in 2022. Liam Cohen was in 2024. Now Josh Grizzard is your offensive coordinator in 2025. So 4 different offensive coordinators in 4 years. That is a very consistent amount of change, right? And while the scheme still stays the same, the play callers changing 4 different years in a row can be taxing on a franchise. Now, a benefit is that the defensive side of the ball, at least in terms of schematics and whatnot, has primarily stayed the same, but you've seen a lot of roster change as well. Players like Jordan Whitehead, Mike Edwards have left the team, in some cases multiple times, specifically in those 2 players' cases. Levante David is getting older and may be on his last year this upcoming season. Devin White, once considered to be a star starting linebacker for the Bucs, is out. Jason Pierre-Paul from a couple of years ago is out. Shaq Barrett, former star pass rusher for the Bucs, is on the outs, basically, for lack of a better way of putting it. Carlton Davis, former star starting cornerback for the Buccaneers, has been out. So we've seen a huge changing of the guard at certain position groups here for the Buccaneers in the past couple of seasons. And I personally believe to take that next step on the path that the Bucs are on to try and at least make it back to the divisional round this upcoming season, maybe win the division yet again. You need to have a successful draft, more specifically in the defensive side. Okay. Because while all the offensive play callers have been changing, and yes, they have been changing on a year to year basis so far to this point, the offense has still been finding success. The Bucs transitioned from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, honestly, pretty seamlessly, all things considered. And the offense has still had incredible amounts of success, even with the revolving door of offensive play callers so far to this point. On the flip side of that, on the defensive side of the ball, I believe that with personnel changes and with different players coming in, maybe players not progressing as well on the defensive side of the ball versus the offensive side of the ball, you've seen regression there. Okay. And I think a big key to the Bucs offseason has needed to be and has been so far to this point improving the defensive side of the ball. What do I mean by that? Well, you did bring back Levante David. You did sign Hassan Reddick. Those are two huge moves for your defense just by themselves. Okay. The offense has not needed a ton of work. Yes, they did bring back starting left guard Ben Bredesen. They did bring back starting wide receiver Chris Godwin. Those are both very good moves for the offense, but I believe a lot of people would be in agreement, both in the fan base and honestly, even in the Buccaneers building as well, that the defense has needed help. If the defense can improve and be more of a complement to an offense that has been very good the past couple of years, despite some of the play calling changes, this can be a team that can get back to a divisional round at the least, right? And I think that the return of Levante David is huge. That's very helpful, even in his current state, being 35 years old. He is still a very serviceable starting linebacker in this league. He's still a guy that can give you a lot of good reps, give you good play, all things considered, given his age, and is still a phenomenal leader on this football team. He's a Hall of Famer in most people's opinions. You brought in Hassan Reddick, which, yes, he did have the scenario with the New York Jets this past season that did not go well. I want to take a quick look at that real quick. That 2024 season where he only had one sack, one forced fumble, and one pass deflection, playing in 10 games, starting two. And that's been described as a weird situation by most people in the Bucs organization, even by Reddick himself, right? And that situation did not work out. So the Bucs are looking, the reason they signed Reddick is because they want him to get back to that form that he was in from 2020 to 2023, where you take a look at those numbers, he had fantastic stats, all things considered. I mean, let's just scroll over here. 50.5 sacks in 66 games played, 61 games started, 13 forced fumbles, 8 passes deflected, 51 tackles for loss, 83 quarterback hits. I talked about regression and issues on the defensive side of the ball the past, let's say, 2 seasons. A big problem with it has been the pass rush. Hassan Reddick is going to be a guy that's going to come in here and help to fix some of those issues. But I don't believe Hassan Reddick can fix all of those pass rush issues that the Buccaneers have. I believe that they need to continue to address the pass rush. We'll talk about that in a moment. You've also had injury concerns in the cornerback room. Jamel Dean suffered a lot of injuries last year. Zion McCollum suffered some injuries last year. Antoine Winfield Jr., he's a safety, still suffered injuries last year. Tyke Smith, strong rookie cornerback for the Bucs last year, suffered injuries last year. Other starting safety, Jordan Whitehead from last year, he is now off the team, had injuries last year. So the secondary needs to not just get healthier, but also build depth in there as well. We'll dive into that in a moment also. So the defense is the key cog in this machine that needs a little bit of grease, right? That needs a little bit of repair, so to speak. And I really do believe that if the Bucs are able to have success in this upcoming draft, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, you will see a Buccaneers team that can not only match their 2024 record production with a 10-7 record, but I think that's where you start to see the other piece of the puzzle come into frame as well, where you start to see this team not only put together some success in the regular season with a double-digit record, possibly, but also begin to have more of that playoff success as well that they had sustained in that 2023 season. Success that is paramount to get back to if you want to see the trajectory of the Buccaneers continue to rise upward and continue to be one of the more upper echelon teams of the NFC. But now let's go ahead and talk about what they need to do in this upcoming draft to have success. Okay. I alluded to it here a moment ago, but really the main point of this draft is to address the defense. What specifically needs to be addressed on the defense? It's a very fair question. Let's go through position group by position group, starting off with the defensive line. I think that the Bucs have three capable starters on that defensive line. I'm going to show you the three. It is Logan Hall at defensive end, it is Vita Vea at nose tackle, and it is Kalijah Kancey at defensive end. Why do I say that? Well, let's go all the way to the defensive stats for the Bucs here, going over to the sack numbers for this past season. If you guys can see it on the right-hand side of the screen here, let me go ahead and scroll up a little bit. Number one was Kalijah Kancey, a defensive lineman. Number two was Vita Vea, a defensive lineman. Number three was Logan Hall, number four was Logan Hall, tied for number three, Logan Hall, a defensive lineman. So whenever you take a look at the overall pass rush, which I feel needs to improve this upcoming season, the defensive line did work last year. They were incredibly productive for Tampa Bay and what they were able to do. So I'm not worried about the defense in terms of the starters. I think you could spare a pick to get another backup defensive lineman. The Buccaneers have shown some interest in certain ways in terms of building to that defensive line depth. They've also brought back a couple of guys as well, Greg Gaines being the biggest name in terms of depth returning on that defensive line unit. But ultimately, I would argue that in terms of consistency right now, today, the Bucs defensive line is by far the most consistent group coming back from last season. So yes, they could invest a later draft pick in a backup defensive lineman to add depth. Maybe that's a fourth rounder. Maybe that's a fifth rounder, something along those lines. But I don't think they need to invest early. They don't need to nail an early draft pick, so to speak, on a defensive lineman. They have three capable starters, in my opinion, in Kalijah Kancey, in Vita Vea, and in Logan Hall. And they have a okay backup in Greg Gaines. You then go to that next level of the defense, the linebackers, and there is a lot to be needed, in my opinion. Yes, let's start off with the outside linebackers. Yes, the Buccaneers did add Hassan Reddick, and I talked about how I think he can be a big benefit to this Bucs pass rush, to this Bucs defense. However, I'm still of the mindset that they need more. Your top outside pass rusher last year in terms of linebackers was Yaya Diaby, getting 4.5 sacks. That's fifth on the team. Anthony Nelson, who only started 6 games for the Bucs last year, very much was a rotational guy, got 4 sacks. That's simply not enough production, in my opinion. The Buccaneers have had to rely heavily on blitzing the past couple of years. Todd Bowles has said that he does not want to continue relying so heavily on the blitz going forward. What does that mean? That means not only should you invest early in an outside edge rushing linebacker, but you've got to nail that pick as well. Myself personally, James personally, wants the Bucs to invest a first or second round pick in edge rushing linebacker. I would feel very comfortable with a first rounder. I think that that is such a huge need. I think it does make everybody's jobs easier if you are able to get after the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball without having to send an insane amount of blitzing, to where that does open up some holes in your defense. So if I was the Bucs, I would very heavily consider taking an edge rusher at pick number 19 if the right player was there, because you need help. I understand there's a lot of love for Yaya Diaby. I think that he is a special player, and I think that if he can put it all together and improve those sack numbers from 4.5 sacks in 2024, the Bucs will have a better pass rush with Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby playing better. I also think that Chris Braswell can step up in year number 2, and Anthony Nelson can continue to be what he is, which is a 4 or 5 sack type of player. However, you can never have enough good pass rushers, in my opinion. And I think the Bucs did bank on Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell, Anthony Nelson, and even Joe Tryon-Shoyinka last year, and were burned for it. The safer play is to continue to add to that room. Bring in as many good pass rushers as you can. Give yourselves as many good opportunities as possible to ride the hot hand, so to speak, in terms of pass rushing ability and play the best guys that are available in a room that has a lot of investment in it. That's how I think the Buccaneers should play out that pass rushing. Whenever you take a look at the inside linebacker room as well, I think there's another case to be made for early investment. Why do I say that? Because look, Devin White's gone. The heir apparent to the inside linebacker room did not pan out. Lavonte David is here, but he's 35 years old. Will this be his last season coming up? A lot of people seem to think so. You do have Servassier Dennis, who has shown some flashes of good play, but he's a former 5th-round pick. He's coming off of a shoulder injury that knocked him out for most of the season last year. You lost former starting linebacker KJ Britt from 2024, who did not play well anyway. You lost JJ Russell, who had to play some snaps last year. It was a revolving door due to injuries. JJ Russell, Antonio Greer Jr., Deion Jones, a veteran. He's still on this team. And you brought in Anthony Walker Jr., who does give you some starting capabilities. But whenever you look at the upside of the inside linebacker room, there is, again, a good amount to be desired, just like I still feel there is in the edge rushing room. So we've seen the Bucs be interested in some guys. Demetrius Knight Jr. is in there, Mikael Williams, and you've also got Nick Scorton. The Bucs are interested in terms of first-round guys for edge rushers. Demetrius Knight Jr. is an inside linebacker, and they should invest early. I really do believe they should invest early, because now you're thinking about not just immediate success, in an immediate improvement on the defensive side of the ball, which I do believe a second, a first round, if it's maybe Jahad Campbell, second round linebacker, if it's a Demetrius Knight Jr., maybe a third round linebacker, if there is somebody of worth that pick available there. Not only can they have immediate contributions, I think you could even view one of those guys as your starting linebacker opposite Lavonte David on day number 1, but you also got to think about sustainable success, long-term success. What do you do after Lavonte David is gone? Well, you have that first, second, or third round linebacker. Maybe you bring back Anthony Walker for a little bit, and you've got Servassier Dennis in there as well. That really helps improve the long-term future of your inside linebacker position, which is so incredibly important, in my opinion. So I believe the Buccaneers also need to go out and nail a pick in terms of bringing in a developmental inside linebacker. The final thing that I believe the Buccaneers need to do to nail this upcoming NFL draft is get a cornerback. Get some cornerback help. Again, round 1, round 2, round 3, Trey Amos is a guy the Bucs are interested in. Siobhan Revel Jr. is a guy the Bucs are interested in. Both those guys are first-round cornerbacks, or can be first-round cornerbacks, maybe second-round cornerbacks, in my opinion, and would contribute right away to the Bucs. Zon McCollum had injuries last year. Jamel Dean had injuries last year. Bryce Hall was out for the entire season last year. You had multiple games where former 5th-round draft pick Josh Hayes, who had never started a game or had very little experience playing in any NFL action on the defensive side of the ball, was one of your starting cornerbacks. And undrafted free agent cornerback Tyreek Thunderburk was your other outside starting cornerback at that point. That cannot happen again this upcoming season. And not to discredit those guys, right? Not to discredit those guys, but they need more depth. Todd Bowles even admitted we need more depth on this cornerback room. And I think the Bucs will invest early. They need to invest early in this cornerback position. They do. Because if injuries happen again, you want to be prepared. Certainly more prepared than what the Bucs were last year, given all the injuries that happened. They weren't prepared for it, and they paid for it. You cannot allow that to happen again. Personally, I like Trey Amos more than Siobhan Revel because Siobhan Revel is coming off of a torn ACL. Trey Amos has been healthier and has played better competition than Siobhan Revel Jr. I would not be opposed in round number 1. If you took an inside linebacker, if you took an edge rusher, or you took a cornerback, I would be perfectly fine with any one of those 3 positions taken. Myself personally, if the right edge rusher is there, go out and get him. If Jahad Campbell is there at inside linebacker, he's my number 1 prospect. I would take him over an edge rusher. If neither Jahad Campbell or the right edge rusher is available, go get a Trey Amos or a Siobhan Revel. Whatever position you do not get in round number 1, get those in round 2 and in round 3. Let's just say, for example, you get an edge rusher in round 1, get a cornerback in round 2, get an inside linebacker in round 3. If you get Jahad Campbell, or maybe it's Demetrius Knight Jr. in round number 1, you get an edge rusher in round 2 or a cornerback in round 2, and you get a cornerback or an edge rusher in round 3, whatever you didn't get in round number 2, and you guys see where the pattern goes there. Those 3 rounds need to address those position groups, in my opinion. You also can address safety as well. The Bucs did say they are looking to play Tyke Smith more at safety, so maybe that is the fix there, opposite of Antoine Winfield Jr. But if you wanted to invest a 4th-round draft pick in a safety, I would completely understand that as well. The point, and I'm going to end it with this, I'm trying to make is this: the Bucs need to invest in the defense, because that was the unit that was lacking in 2024. It was point blank the unit that needed the most help following the 2024 season. They brought in a little bit of help in Hassan Reddick, but besides that, they haven't brought in a lot, I guess I should say, of immediate help on the defensive side of the ball. The 2025 NFL draft can change that, and it needs to change that, in my opinion. You need to see more immediate help on the defensive side of the ball to complement a very solid, very good offensive side of the ball that Tampa Bay has had so far, for them to not just have more immediate sustainable success, but also long-term sustainable success as well, in my opinion, in return to being a team that is a true contender for a deep playoff run, similar to what they were like in 2023, and hopefully can get back into it in 2025. Guys, again, my name is James Still. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you guys so much for watching this live stream here on the Bleacher Report app. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. Stay tuned for everything, not just Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not even just NFL guys. I'm talking MLB, I'm talking NBA, talking NHL, everything revolving around sports is happening here on the Bleacher Report app. You have myself, you have a lot of other creators that are making so much awesome content here on the app. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you do check it out. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And as always, guys, I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.